Hey everyone, Darren Cornwall here, taking my hoodie off. Welcome to part 33 of the Man with No Name painting tutorial, exclusive to you guys on Patreon. Let's just get straight into it. In the last video we painted the sheepskin. Couldn't think of what it was called. We painted the sheepskin stuff there and around the edges and underneath. We're just going to carry on today, going to add some of the shading to that sheepskin. So there's going to be, just looking at some pictures on my screens here, going to add some grey onto it, we're going to add some brown into it, we're going to make some of the crevices stand out a bit, because it's got to look like dirty old sheepskin. So we're going to do that, and then presumably if we get that done, because that shouldn't take too long, we'll get on and do some more on this, and start dirtying this up and adding some colour texture to it to make it look more like sheepskin. So I wish I'd made myself a coffee, because I've just realised my coffee just ran out before I pressed record. That was a really bad decision. Now I've got no coffee for the next hour. Okay, I'll survive. Right, let's bring in the camera. I should go about there. Whoa, flickery lights. Alright, give me 1 second, let me turn the light off. And back on. There you go, I'll do. Okay, let's get these paints a little bit further back. Give me some more room. Okay, so you can see the bumpy sculpted sheepskin there, which we just painted with, I think it was pale flesh, because we just wanted it to be like a cream colour. And now we're going to go in and do some washes and stuff on top. I will use that brush. That's probably a good size, because this doesn't have to be too neat, but it needs to be small enough to apply to it. So I'm going to get some dark grey. Where else do I want? Maybe a bit of umber, maybe leather brown or chocolate brown, leather brown or chocolate brown. I think chocolate brown, maybe. Okay, so we're going to use those. Get that out of the way a little bit. Start off with the dark grey. Oh, hate it when the lid does that. That bit of the lid is supposed to be stuck in there, and sometimes when you've used the thing for a while, it gets stuck on the jar and you have to try and... There you go. Done. Right, how can I... So difficult. Okay, you know what, I'm just going to reach over, put some colour in there. I'm just sticking some grey in there and a pile of water, because I want this to be really thinned down, sort of almost water. I'll show you what I'm doing in a second. So I've just chucked a load of water in there. This is sort of slightly thicker up here, and it's more watery down here. So you can do that sometimes. You can use a single area on your palette to give you different options, so you can paint on the fly without having to mix different things. So I put the paint in there, mixed it with water, and because it's slightly angled, a lot of the water runs down to here. So what you end up with is slightly thicker paint up here and more watery, thin down paint down here. And you can change between the two as you're using it, which is handy if you don't want to, you know, mix separate things of colour to do the same thing. Right, what's that? Ah, just a piece stuck on it. Okay, so this is all a bit random doing this, so we're basically just, let's dab some grey around there, I'll get some under there, give some shade, do some around here. There's no set pattern to this, it's just dabbing colours around until I think it sort of looks right. There's no right or wrong way to do this because this is all very random. And the pictures from the film, like the screenshots or set photos or whatever, a lot of them are not that clear just because of how old the film is and whatever. So there's no, you can work it as close as you to a point where you think it's, well, that's accurate enough, but there's no 100% this is right or this is wrong, because it's sheepskin and it will have changed during the process of them filming anyway. It will have got older, it will have got dirtier, so just mess it up, bring some life to it, make it look like a real thing and not a painted statue, and that's all you need. Now I've just noticed, and I think I remembered this on one of the last videos, where I'm painting here now, this underneath bit, that bit there, there's a belt here. Can we see that? Alright, there's the buckle. That's a leather belt. That's going to be painted brown, as is that bit. This bit here should be the shirt colour, because that's his shirt, because this rides up. All the clothes he wore, I read this and it looks like it could be true, because it sort of looks like when you watch the films. Everything he wore, I think, was a size too small, deliberately. And you watch the films, or you look at any pictures of him, his shirt cuffs are halfway up his arm, his vest is riding up over his shirt, so that should be pale blue to match the shirt, which I will do at some point when I go to work on the shirt next, when I start doing all the highlights and shadows on the shirt, and figuring out how I'm going to fake the stripes. Then I will mix a colour to match that, fill it in, and then we'll work on it. So at the moment I'm just using the very watered down grey. I know you can't really see it, but it's the watery part of the grey that I did. That was very thin, and I am just dabbing it around randomly to give the sort of look that I want. I'm not just painting over the whole thing, I'm doing it in bits, and I'm leaving other bits untouched, and then other bits I'm going back and doing a second layer, so it's a bit darker, and it's deliberately random and all over the place. Oh, heavy. Okay, that's good for the grey. Let's get some brown, chocolate brown. Okay, so get a little bit of chocolate brown on the brush if I can, and I'll put that in the one next to it. Same thing, little bit of paint, ton of water. So just doing that there. Yep, very thin, very watery. Oh, why is my nose running? Oh, hay fever. I'm probably getting hay fever. Wonderful. Oh, I just realised I'm not in the corner. I keep forgetting to do that. Hello. Right. So, random brown bits on this sheepskin, no fixed pattern, just wherever I feel like it might work. I'm just in my palette, I'm just taking some of the grey, mixing it in with some of the brown, and giving myself a different colour again. And I'm looking at photos. The photos are not definitive as to how, you know, a random sheepskin should look, but if there's bits where I think it might be darker, or there might be more shadows, or if there's bits where the sheepskin looks like it's a bit more worn out, I'll just add more in those places. A lot of it is just random though, and you could do it all completely random and it would work just fine. You'd get away with it, because no one can say, oh, that sheepskin should have a bit of shadow in that bit of wool and not that bit of, you know, there's no, it's not like you're painting an Iron Man costume and some bits should be red and some bits should be gold. You just, it's a sheepskin, you're just making it a bit old and dirty. I want some leather brown as well in that. I want a slightly lighter brown. Oops, needs shaking up. I've just seen that it's separated into the paint and the thinner, the liquid, whatever. So I'm just giving it a good shake. Boppity boppity ba. There you go. Oh, don't. I just knocked it over. Thankfully, the paint is quite old and there's not that much in it, so it didn't run anywhere. That could have been, I could have had paint everywhere. You know what, that's thinned down enough there so I can go straight into it. Oops, hang on, drip of water on the paint handle that I don't want that to go everywhere. Let's see, let's get some lighter. Oh, I think I just wheezed. I breathed in and I squeaked. I know I do get a bit wheezy sometimes when I get hay fever, so maybe I am getting hay fever. Oi, music, stop being loud. Can we see here? Sorry. Let's see. Oh, forgive me for holding it away from the camera. I'm just holding it away from myself, and I just want to see how it looks. Let's get some more. Let's get some grey around this side. Let me have a look at another picture on my screen. A second. Okay, I want, excuse me, I'll get some yellow ochre. I've got to be careful because this is much bigger than I normally do. Normally when I'm painting a thing, if I'm grabbing paints and stuff, I put the head over to one side. I've got a little stand where I put all the heads on sticks and they stand upright, which means that this area is clear. Because this is living here, I have to be careful when I've got a brush with paint on and I'm moving things around that I don't spludge paint over the front of it, because that would be very easy to do and would also be very annoying. I'm just squeezing out a little bit, oh god, if I can get any out, of yellow ochre. Oh, I can't get any out. Oh, my yellow ochre might have died. No! The yellow ochre that I've been using for about 10 years has finally, hang on, a little bit coming out there. Totally got a hard crust on the top, and it's also mostly all gone. May have to get a new yellow ochre. Now, I know I've bought some yellow ochre in the Vallejo colours, because I'm going to be changing over to those. Or by the time you watch this, I may have already done that series. But what I'm going to be doing, in case you haven't seen it yet, if you have, just ignore me. I can't get this lid back on now. It's so full of paint. I am going to, forgive me here. I'm telling you about one thing while I'm doing another thing. I've just got some yellow ochre, mixed it on the palette, really watered down, the same as I did with the browns. I just want to add sort of a bit of yellow all over this thing, and I'm going to go back with highlights, but I just want to make it all a little bit more yellow. The Vallejo colours, because most people that have messaged me, and seemingly most people on the internet who paint figures, use Vallejo paints, or at the very least have access to them because you can buy them on Amazon. I'm going to be changing over to those, so people who want to paint along with me can actually paint along with me using the same colours. So I'm going to be doing that, and what I'm going to be doing is taking a head sculpt and doing a series on YouTube, not on here. Well, I'll post the links here, so you'll still get notice of them if you don't follow me on YouTube. And I'm going to do a series of painting one of the heads using the new Vallejo paints, and it's going to be a public series, so you don't have to be on Patreon to watch it, because it's going to be the first time I'm using different paints, and I will be trying to figure out how to use them and trying to get used to the fact that they are all different colours and different consistencies to these ones that I use, and also the fact that the way I work here, and I leave pots open for a while and dip into them, I'm not going to be able to do that because they are squeezy. You squeeze paint out of them. So I figured for the first one, where I'm trying to figure them out for myself, I would put that up as a public series on YouTube for everyone to see, for everyone to laugh at me while I get it all wrong. And then we'll come back to Patreon and carry on with the series, but I will be using paints that you guys can paint along with. And I know I've bought a yellow ochre in one of those, but I don't want to open it yet because I want to use all them together at the first time. Forgive me for playing with my face here, but my moustache is itching my nose. Right, what was I doing? Right, so I've done on here, I've done a load of greys and browns and yellow ochres and dirtied it up. What I want to do now is go back just on a few bits. I'm going to get the pale flesh, the original colour that we used, and I'm not going to wash it down because I don't want this to be a wash. I want this to be thick. I'm just going to pick out random highlights. I might even get some cream colour which is lighter, but don't know yet. Where's my phone? Oh, sorry, my phone was flashing in front of me and I didn't know why. I think someone either sent me a message or tried to call me and it missed the call, and my screen flashed up and I was like, why is my screen flashing up in front of me? I'm liking that already. I think that's looking quite good. And I might go back to that when the rest of it's been done. I might look at it and go, you know what, that could be a bit darker or that could be a bit lighter. And we do always adjust things. It's not a case of you have to paint it first time and get it right first time and then you can't go back to it. You can always go back to it. You do things how you think they're going to be, and then if it's right, it's right. If it's not, you fix it. So what I'm going to do, in fact, you know what, I will, just a little bit, I'm going to get some cream which is a little bit whiter than the pale flesh, which is a bit more yellowish. I'm going to get a little bit of that, and I'm just going to sort of quickly blast over a couple of bits of that. Let me just hold it in front of me so I can see. That's quite good. I might do some more grey. In fact, you know what? Let's see if I can. I've got some grey here mixed with the cream, and I'm just going to pick out a couple of bits on top. Just a few bits where I'm like, yeah, that needs to be darker, that bit. Okay, I'll do for now. That's looking good. Dirty old sheepskin. I think we will go back in a bit and add more to it. You know what, I'm going to do a few random. I'm going to get the really washed down grey and just blob 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 blob, just to add some of the shadows on the sculpted details, just make it a little bit darker. There you go, I like that. Okay, so let me wash the brush. Cool. Okay, so next, I'm going to leave those colours open because I'm probably going to be using those. Doing this bit. Oh, itchy nose. Right, let's see. Looking at pictures on my screen, so forgive me while I'm looking at everything. Umber, you know what, I'm going to get some umber out because I think I'm going to use that to start with or in a bit. Let me see if I've got another picture. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of grey. Actually, grey. Oh, I've got the grey open, that's okay. Want some of the browns, want some grey. So let's see, grey and umber mixed together, I think. And then there's going to be some cream and one of the browns, leather brown or chocolate brown, I'm not sure which. When you see people who are cosplaying with outfits like this, the sheepskin is often brand new looking, so it's very orangey brown at the front, and it's not how it looks when he's wearing it. It's older and paler and more worn out. So that's the look that I'm going for. There's definitely some grey, definitely some umber, and some light bits which I will do with a mix of those colours, and I think to start off with that will probably be okay. Okay, let's go on with this. So what we want, because it's how we did this bit when we did the first couple of layers, is we painted thin washes on, and then we got scrunched up kitchen roll, paper towel, and we went blop 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 blop. And we're going to be doing some of that, and we are also going to be doing it with a brush, painting it on, you know, mixing it around with the brush or my fingertips or whatever, anything that gets the result. But I think to start off with, we're going to use kitchen roll, so I'll just put that there where I've got access to it. Okay, so let's get some. In fact, you know what? I've got that thin, watery, washed down grey there and a bit of brown. I might just mix those together, because they're sort of the colour that I want, but a bit darker. I'm going to throw a little bit of umber. There's not much umber left in this paint. I'm trying to get to the bottom without it getting on the side of the handle. Right, a little bit of umber. Let's chuck that in there, make it darker. More water, because we need more water. Okay. So, I think, how am I going to do this? I want it to last longer. Right, I'm going to get, I've got, there's acrylic thinner, which part of the properties of it is that it keeps things, it stops things from drying out. You know, if you mix them in with paint, with that, they evaporate slower than if it was just water. So what I'm going to do is get some of that, and just by itself, just to wet it, I'm going to paint it on the sheepskin itself, because I want this to be a little bit wet when the paint goes on it. So I'm wetting one half. We'll do one half at a time, just because it's all we're going to have time to do. So, alright, one half wet. So you see that there? Dry, wet. And then I'm going to get the dark grey colour. Well, it's grey and umber and blob, 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 blob. Mix it in randomly all over the place. You can see it going on. And throw some in the crevices. Now this is going to be changed when we wipe it off. I've got to be careful, because if there's too much like that bit, it will just soak into the corners, and we want to be careful that we don't leave it looking like puddles, because gravity pulls water down, and if it dries and it looks like a puddle, then it doesn't look like something that's naturally aged. It looks like, oh, they put a load of water on that. So it is sort of falling down into the side, which shouldn't make any difference, because I'm going to be painting shadows down there anyway when I paint the sleeves, so it doesn't matter too much. But I'm just getting this colour randomly all over the place. It doesn't matter too much because we're taking some of it off, but I suspect that this is going to be done in several layers. Now I've just picked up some brown on the brush there. You can see the difference, and I'm just throwing that around a bit randomly. Now I'm going to smudge the whole thing together, but not everything, not all of it. I'm going to keep the brown separate from the dark bits, from the greys, but blending it in a bit. Yeah, well, that's actually looking quite good already, even before I do anything to it. Take some more grey under there. I want it to look like shadow underneath the poncho. Let's pick up some umber from. I just picked up some umber on the brush from the lid of the paint, so it's not watered down, so it's quite thick, so it's not going on and running everywhere at the moment. It's actually just going on as thick paint, so that's letting me smudge this everywhere, and I'm trying to make it look random. And it's sort of difficult to make things look random because you're doing them deliberately and you're using your brain and you're thinking about it, so it's planned, but you've got to make it look random, and sometimes it can just look too deliberate. So I'm getting the kitchen roll, the paper towel, and randomly dabbing it up in some areas and leaving it down in other areas. And you can see some of the difference there. So that's a clean side. That's just got, I think, was it 1 or 2 layers that we did in the previous video? I can't remember. It was 1 or 2. We had the base colour and then we did 1 or 2 layers of the thin wash colour mix on top. So that's that. And that's what we've just done. Now that's going to dry a bit darker. It's very thin, so it's not going to dry much different, but paint usually dries darker. That's quite thin, so it won't have as much of an effect. But you can see the random, you know, extra shading, different colours going on than that side, and that's what we're after. So I'm going to leave that side to dry a little bit, and I'm going to do exactly the same to the other side. So I'm using the paint thinner, which sort of gives me a little bit extra time to work on it, just because it dries out a bit slower than water. And get that everywhere, paint everywhere. Right, so get some grey, blob 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 blob, smudge it everywhere, get it a bit random. Definitely want some under there. Add some to the other side as well, why not? Okay, do that. Get some in the corners. The corners are quite dirty because I guess they're at the bottom, they get rubbed against things. He touches them a lot because, you know, getting undressed, going for a pee, whatever. They get worn out because they probably get grabbed the most down there. So you think about stuff like that when you're painting things. How would it wear out? Why would it wear out? Which bits get touched the most? Which bits are going to be you know, rubbed against the ground or anything like that, and you know, which bits are going to get dusty. So you think about stuff like that when you're doing this. Now there's still that little bit that got rubbed off at the front that I need to repaint, and I can do that. I can top that up at any point. For now I'm just doing this and making it look quite random. So that's quite good, because basically I used the watery grey colour that had some brown mixed in that I did there, and I was taking little bits of the pure leather brown and dabbing them on top, and that is giving a good start to how that's going to look. Okay, so let's do some more. Let's get some, yeah, let's do more grey. Some grey on there, wipe it off the excess and then smudge it around. Forgive the quietness. I was just focusing on getting the colours right and I forgot I wasn't talking. Let's get some pure grey, make it a bit darker, and I can just go into that bit there, make that a little bit darker there. Let's get some up there, make that a bit darker. So I just dabbed some grey on the brush, but not a watered down version. It was just the thick pure grey paint, just to allow me to get some darker bits in there to help exaggerate the shadows a bit. Okay, let's get some umber. So I'm getting some pure umber. Same thing again. Very dark on the brush, but wiped a lot of it off, and I'm just dabbing it in with those bits to make them darker, and then control dabbing them off so it looks like either shadows or bits where the fabric has sort of worn out and aged because it's been getting bent in the same place a lot or something. Oh, okay, same on the other side. So what I'm doing in some bits, I'm dabbing it with the brush and mixing it around that way. Some bits I'm doing it, with my finger. Some bits I'm using the cloth to dab it and pick bits of it up. Some bits I'm putting it on and then very lightly with the edge of the brush blending it up and down, left and right, because you want it to be a random, it's how the fabric looks type thing, or the material. Really fabric, is it? And when you look at old dark messy sheepskin. It's sort of all over the place. Some bits of it look like it's almost tufty, like little hairs, not in the texture but in the colouring of it, and some bits look like it's just been blended to be darker, and so there's lots of different stuff going on, and you want to replicate that. I'm really trying to make sure that these bottom corners are all the bits he's likely to touch more, have more colouring on them. Get some more up here because it looks darker up there. Oh my god, this thing's heavy. Well, I will have big biceps by the time I finish this thing. Okay. Because all these layers are adding more depth to the thing, and I'm going to go in with some light bits to add some extra colouring to it, but that is starting to look really good. Right, I'm going to quickly clean the brush. Let me have one more peek at the other pictures. Because a lot of the pictures that you see in screenshots are under different lighting and different studio lights or sunlight or just different effects. I'm just making sure that I'm covering everything and that it is going to look like a good balance between how the actual costume was and how we all know it from looking at it on screen. Okay, so I'm going to get some, which one do I use? I'm going to use some cream. I want it to be a bit more white than yellow. I'm just going to chuck it up here. Let's mix some, I'll mix some leather brown with it. You watch, way too much leather brown. Yep, knew I'd do that. As soon as I put the colour down, I'm like, no, it's too much. Don't want it that dark. So I'm putting more cream with it to lighten it up. A bit more. I'm going to get a little bit of, actually I was going to use that. I wanted a little bit of grey in it, and I just realised I've got a load of grey down there. Just take some of that. A bit more grey. Let's get some more cream. I want it to be lighter again. That's my fault because I splodged too much brown on it. Okay. So if I wipe off most of that, I don't think this is light enough, but for first layers it will be fine. Let me grab hold of that again. So this is just going to be the same thing as what I was doing with the dark stuff. It's just creating part of the effect of how the thing looks, and it's just adding different layers to part of it. Now this is all again, it looks a bit rubbish at the moment because I'm just putting the colour down. It's got to be smudged in, and then there'll be more layers going on top of it. And when you paint first layers before you get a chance to, you know, finish what you're doing to it, things often look rubbish. But it's okay because you know where it's going in your head. Oop. Kitchen roll sticking to my arm. Okay, let's get some. So some of it is being used to simulate highlights on the raised up bits, but it's also to simulate the actual colour and texture of the material itself, because there are lighter bits in it, and I want to mix that in. I want to make sure we get some of that, because it's not all just dark brown. So we had the base colour, we did the initial wash over it, we've done the layers of smudgy random stuff on top of that. We're now adding light bits on top because there are light bits in the thing. I just want to get some brown. Where's my leather brown? Right. Now I could do with some of that paint thinner. The more layers you get, the more depth you get. I keep leaning on that bit of kitchen roll there, and every time I move my arm it pulls away. Let's get some grey, add some back here. See now, as well as all the random stuff that I've been doing to deliberately make it look like random material effects, I'm looking at the actual pictures and thinking, okay, well on that bit there's a dark mark there, or the, you know, it's a bit lighter there, and I'm not trying to 100% copy it, because it's, you know, that's going to be difficult to do. It's a natural fabric, you can do it to a certain extent, and it would, if I had forever to paint it, I could get the sheepskin looking 100% exactly like the sheepskin that he's wearing. I'm not going to go for that deliberately, just because that is a lot of work, and most people won't notice that, you know, well, those hairs on that bit of the costume are going in the wrong direction. Those sort of details most people don't know, most people don't see. And depending on the project, sometimes you go for that, sometimes you don't. In this case, all I want it to look like is like it's the one that he's wearing, but you don't need to examine it with a microscope to see, you know, is the nap of the fur on the thing going in one direction or another direction. I'm not interested in that sort of detail. I just want it to feel like, well, yeah, that's what he was wearing. So that's what we're doing. I'm just using, I'm basically going forward and back with the darks and the lights and the browns and the creams and everything to simulate what he was wearing. Oy. What I'm doing with the brushes, when I'm the bristles, when I put the colour down, I'm sort of trying to leave it with, I'm flicking the colours around to move the paint and leave it in a particular direction, so it looks like that sort of the way sheepskin looks when it's old, and so it's not like shiny leather, it's sort of very worn out, almost fluffy effect to it, where it's got different bits of the nap is going in different directions. That's what I'm trying to do. I'll put a colour down, and then before it dries I'll flick it in different directions just to try and make it look like, well, there's, you know, sort of micro fur in a certain direction there, and it just to try and give it a bit of movement, a bit of depth, a bit of texture where there's not much texture. That's starting to look really good. So let's get some grey, grey and a bit of leather brown. Oh, excuse me. Bit of cream. Just want to mix a greyish light colour, sort of that colour. Oh. Okay, let's get some brown. As you work on something and you're doing the different layers, you look at it and you'll do a thing, and then you'll move away and work on something else, and then you'll look at it and go, okay, that bit that I've just done dark could do with some light on top of it, or that bit that I've just done dark brown, that could have maybe some grey on top of it, and you just see bits that you play it by eye. If you're copying pictures, then you go by that. If you're just trying to make something look interesting, then you go by, I don't know, what your brain tells you. If you're trying to do a certain fabric or a certain, a costume or a person's face, if you're doing that, go by reference pictures, because your brain will not remember things as accurately as you want it to. But it's basically just played by ear. You look at something and you think, I think that needs a bit of brown there, I think that needs a bit of yellow there, and you just go by what it feels like you should use. And eventually you will get it. I'm very almost happy with this. That's quite good. And as with everything, when we've done more of the stuff, we can come back and go, you know what, I want to go in with a smaller brush and add extra details to it. And that's what we'll do. We'll probably go over the whole thing once we're done. But for now, certainly enough to let me get on with the shirt and the belt buckles and the poncho. That is the sheepskin jacket done. Let's have a look with, throw that brush in the water, grab, his head, very good. Awesome. Right, wheel my chair back over here. Okay, that's been over an hour. Let me flick back to... Where's my cursor gone? I've lost my cursor. Oh, there it is. Main camera. There you go. Hi. Right, so that is it for the vest for now. We may do more, but for now, that it's still shiny because it's just been painted. It's still drying, and even if it dries shiny, sometimes when you're painting thinner layers that you've used a lot of thinner on, they dry shiny. It doesn't matter because we're going to go over it with varnish at the end anyway. That's what we normally do. But while that's drying, you can see the colour, and that is starting to look like Clint Eastwood. And we've got the nice, where are we? Over here. Two-tone colours of the poncho for the inside non-dirty bit, non-aged bit, and the outside bit that got all dirty and dusty and sun-bleached and everything. So it's good having those two different colours. The shirt is going to be worked on. That's going to be a more greyish tone of blue, because it's blue and white stripes, but very, very thin. But it's like it's a greyish blue, the stripes. So it's not going to be as, this is like a pale sky blue at the moment, but it's a good base of the colour to do shadows and highlights on top of it, grey it down a bit, and then I can work on giving it the effect of stripes, because it's too small to actually do the stripes. Because even on full scale, the stripes are, you know, even painting them at full scale would be a challenge. But on this scale, you're going to have to give the effect of there are stripes there and make your brain go, oh yeah, that's a striped shirt. And we'll do that. But that's starting to look good. I like that. It's really hard getting the angle when you're doing things in reverse on a camera. I like that sheepskin. That's good for now. It'll be good seeing that when it's dry and non-shiny, and we will work on everything else around it for now. And then once we've done other stuff, if we look at it and go, you know what, that sheepskin, I want to dirty it up a bit more or do something to it, we'll just go back and we'll do it. There's the dirty kitchen roll. I can go over there because I'll probably use that again. Right, thanks for sticking with me through part, I think it was 33. I've forgotten now. And we've done the vest. That was quite good. We managed to do the whole thing in one go. Next time, I don't know. Next time we will either do the belts or the shirt, or maybe start on the poncho. We might do the poncho. You know what? Everyone, the poncho is the thing. I think with these, anytime I see action figures that people have made of this figure, or people who've made their own costumes, the poncho is the thing that gets everyone's attention. So we might go on to that next. I think that's going to be a complicated thing. That's probably going to be quite a lot of videos, because we've got to make the brown the correct appearance of brown. We've got the right colour, but we've got to make it look like fabric and make it look old. So there's going to be a lot of flicking, bristles, a lot of dry brushing, all of that kind of stuff to get the colour right. This green is pretty much right. I want to change the shade of it. Excuse me. I want to change the shade of it slightly. And then obviously the thing that is going to be the detailed, careful work that's going to be kind of a pain to do on something this big and on camera is all of those geometric, you know, the squares and the lines, and there's a bit that goes down here that is really fine lines, and it's going to be a pain in the backside to do. So we'll see. It's got to be done, so I will do it, but I think it will take several videos, because it's probably going to take a couple of videos just to get the poncho looking right with the colours and the shades and the shadows and highlights that we haven't done yet, and age them and make them look like fabric and make them look dusty and old, and the geometric patterns which we'll have to paint on and then weather on top of those to make them look like parts of the fabric. Because one thing that I have seen on a few statues and figures that people have painted is they do the colour of the poncho and get everything done, and then paint the geometric patterns in white or something on top, and it looks like they've been painted on top because there's no aging on top of those geometric shapes. They've got to be part of the fabric. They're not white to start with anyway. They're sort of like a dirty, creamy brown. But they've got to be part of the fabric. And they get dirty as well because they are part of the fabric. So we've got to do that. I think we'll start that on the next video. So that's it. I'm going to go. I'm going to make myself a coffee because I have been talking for an hour and I'm thirsty. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you on the next video. If you've got any questions, if you've got any, all the usual stuff, leave me comments, leave me likes, go and subscribe to me on YouTube, all of that. I will see you in the next video. Look after yourselves, guys. Be nice to someone. Do a nice thing today. I will see you next time. Right, where's my cursor? I'm looking at the screen while I'm talking. I'm trying to get my cursor in the right place so I can click on the thing when I'm done. Right, there it is. Okay, I'm going now. Bye.